NBC News has just confirmed that actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner has at the age of 54. Authorities in Costa Rica telling NBC News that Warner accidentally drowned while swimming in the ocean on Sunday. Warner is best known for...
It was the trembling in her voice that first gripped us. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's wife, rarely seen in public, stood behind a bank of microphones outside a quiet LA law office, clutching a folded handkerchief with knuckles white from grief or fury, or maybe both. Her eyes, sunken from days without sleep, scanned the crowd like she was still searching for someone to believe her. Then she said it. "My husband didn't drown. He was poisoned. And they framed him to look careless." That sentence dropped like a bomb. What followed was an unfiltered 20-minute declaration that ripped the lid off what she called a Hollywood-sanctioned takedown. In cryptic social posts hours later, she doubled down, writing, "He warned them. They warned back. Now he's gone."
Between gigs, I could float and things are cool. But, there's another level of responsibility, having a wife and a daughter. So there's that. But there's also there is a newfound freedom that I'm having with my craft.
The world had barely absorbed the shock of Malcolm's sudden passing when her accusation set social media ablaze. He had drowned in Costa Rica, they said, a freak current, a tragic accident, but she wasn't buying it, and frankly, neither are we. Especially when you stack her words against the peculiar timing. For 48 hours, she said nothing. No grief post, no press release, just silence. Until suddenly, it wasn't. What was she doing in those 2 days? Sources close to the family say she met with a private forensic toxicologist and retained 2 attorneys with ties to international whistleblower protection cases. Strategic silence or shock? Either way, when she came forward, it was with purpose. And then there's the poison and push theory. It started as an online whisper, dismissed by skeptics as internet nonsense, until her statement gave it teeth. According to an insider close to Warner's podcast production team, Malcolm had been experiencing intense headaches and blurry vision in the days leading up to his trip. He allegedly told his co-hosts he was feeling off and joked darkly that someone might be trying to shut him up. "If I disappear, you know what happened," he reportedly said on a hot mic between tapings. And yet, the official cause of passing? Drowning. The body showed no obvious trauma, no bruises, just asphyxiation by submersion. But what if that was only the symptom, not the source?
I wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile. Like, if you just take a minute to stop and take stock, I guarantee you can find at least one reason to smile. And if for some reason you can't find a reason to smile, then that's probably the best time to be the reason for somebody else.
Experts we've spoken with say it's not only possible but plausible. A small dose of an untraceable neurotoxin could disable the muscles just enough to make swimming impossible, rendering even a trained lifeguard helpless in water. Malcolm was a strong swimmer. Family vacations were often spent by the ocean. So how did he end up swept away by a current in shallow tide? Near bystanders who pulled him out minutes later. The second man in the water, now recovered and discharged, has yet to make a public statement. But the silence from him? Deafening. And some say, suspicious. Here's where it gets chilling. That neurotoxin theory lines up disturbingly well with the timeline his wife laid out. She claims Malcolm was last seen conscious at breakfast, but skipped lunch. Saying he felt lightheaded, he reportedly went swimming around 2 p.m. just as symptoms of such toxins would reach their peak. The question is, when and how was it administered? Was it slipped into a drink, a protein shake, maybe even a vitamin capsule? We know Malcolm was strict about his health. He traveled with supplements, not snacks, and he trusted few people with his food. But in a country where controls are loose and tourism masks strangers as friends, even the most cautious can be exposed.
Oh, so unbelievable there. And Branson, I also was reading that just days ago, he had another podcast episode that was dropped. And now a lot of fans are starting to really listen to that as maybe one of his last times that you hear him.
All of this spirals back to the final episodes of his podcast, Not All Hood, which many now believe were the trigger point. Malcolm had grown bolder. The show, which launched in June, wasn't just dissecting cultural issues, it was naming names. On what is now considered his last recording, Malcolm made a veiled reference to gatekeepers who profit off both sides of the narrative and added, "They don't like it when we stop playing along." In another segment, he discussed how some celebrities are promoted as voices of empowerment, but behind the scenes, signed MDAS, like checks. Did someone hear that and decide he had crossed a line? Because here's the truly sinister angle. Several industry veterans who've asked to remain anonymous told us that Warner had recently rejected a high-paying development deal with a major streaming platform. The reason? He reportedly refused to tone down his podcast content. One associate claims Malcolm received soft threats in the weeks following that decision, offers to meet for coffee with vague language like, "It's always best to stay in your lane, especially when it's paying well." A former road manager from his tour days says he noticed an uptick in surveillance and even spotted a man taking photos of Malcolm and his daughter at a school event. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's starting to stack.
My mother, who again, we lived every year of the show as if it was the last year because we just didn't know. So because she was always, impressed upon me the importance of what was happening down the line and not just with this show, there wasn't really space to just be like, hey, I'm chilling because I'm on TV and this is...
Let's not forget, Malcolm had a legacy to protect, but he also had receipts. He kept notes, handwritten journals, we're told, that included episode outlines, personal thoughts, and names, real names. And although we don't know where those journals are now, insiders close to the family say his wife has at least some of them. That may explain her calculated timing. She wasn't just grieving, she was preparing. And that's not a widow screaming into the void, that's a woman who's armed. The real nail in the narrative, though, is the forensic timeline. The autopsy conducted in Costa Rica concluded drowning as the official cause, but didn't include extensive toxicology due to jurisdiction limitations. His body was reportedly flown back to the U.S. under tight security, and a second, private examination was requested by the family. Whether those results will ever be made public is unknown, but we've confirmed that a high-profile former medical examiner from Los Angeles has been consulting with the Warner estate. And if that doesn't scream something's off, we don't know what does.
What's good? Yes, I got the flower in my hair. Today's my daughter's birthday. She put the flower there, so I'm rocking it. What? It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. I just wanted to shout out and just spread some love and some good cheer. And life is out here lifing, right? For me and for everybody else.
Meanwhile, fans continue to pour over Malcolm's final podcast episodes, hoping to decode what he may have been hinting at. In one clip, he says, "Some people make it out of the industry with their souls. Some are paid not to." In another, he jokes about how truth doesn't trend unless it's tied to a tragedy. Looking back now, they don't sound like punchlines. They sound like warnings. Warnings he may have hoped wouldn't go unheard. And all this, every unraveling thread, brings us back to that beach in Costa Rica. The sand, the surf, the bystanders who tried and failed to save him. Was he already unconscious before the tide even touched him? Was the other man in the water truly trying to help, or part of something more calculated? He was identified as a 29-year-old from Nicaragua. No known connection to Warner, but that doesn't mean there wasn't one. People don't just leap into currents for strangers unless they're heroes or handlers.
Know that this incident took place on Sunday in Costa Rica. He was on a family vacation. He was swimming off of the coast of a town called Cocles in the province of Limon. He was swimming at Playa Grande. I mean, I've visited Costa Rica a few times. I was there with my family a few years ago, and those currents can be...
The local authorities say the investigation is ongoing, but no new details have emerged since July 22, when the Costa Rican police declared Warner's passing accidental, convenient, quick, clean. Yet his wife isn't buying it. And we're not sure we do either. Because when a man spends his final months pulling at the curtain of the entertainment machine and then ends up silenced in a way that neatly closes the book on his truth, it begs the question no one dares ask too loudly. Or were we simply meant to stop asking? Because the deeper we dig into that other man, the so-called Good Samaritan who jumped in after Malcolm, the murkier it gets. The official story is that he was a Nicaraguan tourist, just 29 years old, swept into the same current while trying to help. He was labeled critical at the scene, taken away in an ambulance, reportedly unconscious, then miraculously discharged 2 days later without complications, according to Mauricio Solano Corella. Let that sink in. Critical condition one moment, totally fine and discharged the next, with no media follow-up, no interviews, no identification, no photos, nothing, not even a first name. And then he vanished.
Early morning swim, he had gone out to the coastline just before sunrise, and a little after sunrise got into the water. Not too many details about what exactly happened once he was in the water, but authorities did end up finding his body actually hundreds of yards away down the shoreline. His body was discovered in a rocky cove. It was brushed up against that rock.
Not a single witness has come forward confirming his presence on the beach before the incident. No known connection to Malcolm, no family contacted, just a ghost with a passport. And here's the chilling rumor making its way through quiet channels in LA. This man wasn't there to save Malcolm. He was sent there to finish the job, a low-profile operative embedded into the tourist crowd, trained to clean up messes before they spiral out of control. According to a former security consultant who worked with international studios in Latin America, this exact tactic has been used before. You insert someone in plain sight, close enough to assist or sabotage depending on what's needed. If something goes wrong, they go critical and then disappear. And here's the kicker. There are whispers, unconfirmed but persistent, that the second man left the hospital with more than just a discharge slip. He may have been holding on to Malcolm's waterproof satchel, the one he always brought near water, which allegedly contained a portable hard drive and handwritten notes for future podcast episodes. Those items have not been recovered. The family has not addressed them. But those close to the production team say backups are missing, and the last few episode outlines were scrambled in the cloud storage system as if wiped remotely.
I've been doing this like 40-something years. But I'm in a place now where acting, and I guess I go through phases, but I'm in a place now where acting, the craft, excites me as much as it did when I was 9 years old.
Now, look at the bigger pattern. Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just a guy from The Cosby Show. He had become something else. A cultural voice pulling the curtain back on image manipulation, gatekeeping, and the marketing of the Black narrative through a lens sanitized for profit. And that kind of clarity, that makes people uncomfortable, dangerous even. It wouldn't be the first time a truth teller with a mic ended up silenced. Remember Michael Hastings? His car exploded under suspicious circumstances just after he reached out to lawyers at WikiLeaks. Or what about Prince? Weeks before his alleged overdose, he reportedly told concertgoers, "Wait a few days before you waste any prayers." These weren't accidents, they were alarms. Malcolm may have just been the latest echo in a long line of voices turned down to a whisper. And the thing is, it's not just the Hollywood elite allegedly involved. There's growing concern that foreign authorities, in this case Costa Rican officials, may have played a role in keeping this case quiet. Within hours of the incident, the local investigation had labeled it an accidental drowning. Despite the presence of a second injured party, despite the eyewitness confusion, despite international attention, the Judicial Investigation Agency quickly wrapped the cause as asphyxiation by submersion, and that's where most media stopped. But what wasn't mentioned? The fact that surveillance footage from Playa Grande beach cameras used for security and tourist flow monitoring was sealed the day after the incident.
To me, when I was on the show and we had such good times together, I was probably 18 and Malcolm was probably 17, 16, I don't know. And we would take walks together, all of us, and pick up food, talk, played basketball, hung out on the weekends, went to parties together. He was so good.
One local source told us off record that a foreign legal representative visited the coastal police station within 24 hours and made a formal request to restrict public access to the footage for privacy concerns. That same source also said 2 US-based individuals arrived shortly after, posing as grief counselors and asking questions about who had retrieved Warner's personal items from the scene. Surveillance footage, gone. Witness statements, sealed. And just like that, another incident filed under tragic accident, with no paper trail and no further updates. But the pattern doesn't stop there. Over the past decade, we've seen a trend. Figures who speak up against the industry's more toxic underbelly often face abrupt misfortunes. From whistleblowing stylists who vanish, to producers who retire early after exposing creative accounting scandals, to actresses who fall into legal spirals after revealing NDA-protected behavior on set. This isn't just chaos, it's choreography, and when the choreography starts looking too familiar, we have to ask, who's writing the steps?
That no matter what happens, that they love me. Like even if I was getting into trouble for something that I did, it was still paramount that they love me. They may be disappointed in me, they may be angry with me, frustrated with me. They're giving me these consequences.
Malcolm's wife seems to know more than she's saying. That much is clear. Insiders say she's been advised to limit press contact, possibly due to mounting legal pressure. But her original posts? They're still up. Screenshots don't lie. She wrote, "They wanted his voice gone. Now they want me quiet too. And if that doesn't put a chill down your spine, consider this. Her personal security detail has doubled in the past week. A family source claims she's carrying a flash drive in a locket, something Malcolm gave her months ago. If something happens to me, he allegedly told her, go to Atlanta, find Baraka, he knows what to do. Baraka, of course, being Wacy Baraka, his Not All Hood co-host, who has not spoken publicly since Malcolm's passing and recently deactivated all social media accounts. In the hours following his passing, fans and digital archivists began combing through Malcolm's final podcast uploads, looking for context or clues. What they found wasn't just provocative, it was potentially explosive. Unreleased teasers for an upcoming episode, scheduled to air just a week after his trip to Costa Rica, were quietly sitting in the metadata of the show's server. These weren't accidental drops. According to tech sources familiar with podcast backend systems, they appeared to be intentionally tagged as private drafts, timestamped less than 72 hours before the drowning. In them, Malcolm allegedly outlined a multi-part expose on what he described as a protected circle within the entertainment industry, specifically referencing inappropriate behavior toward minors, systematic cover-ups, and the decades-long silencing of victims. Several of these clips have now been removed or made inaccessible, but not before fragments were downloaded and circulated in private chat groups and niche forums.
Historic and frozen in time as this iconic character. What did that mean for television, and what does it still mean to this day?
Sam, Theo Huxtable was me. Theo Huxtable was my brothers. Theo Huxtable was the first time someone that looked like me saw someone that looked like himself on television. He was the epitome of what we as kids, in a certain community were growing.
The content of these recordings, while fragmented, paints a chilling picture. Malcolm spoke not just about general corruption, but seemed to name specific individuals, a pattern of behavior he had never done so boldly before. One surviving clip, only a few seconds long, includes a scrambled audio filter, a common method used to anonymize identities, followed by a statement that many believe references a prominent executive tied to multiple accusations over the years. Listeners have pointed out subtle editing cues, changes in his voice, even emotional inflections that suggest Malcolm was afraid, not just angry. And the structure of the episode itself was different. Instead of his usual conversational style, it played more like a digital confession, a roadmap, a final testimony from a man who knew he wouldn't get to finish the story himself. What makes all of this even more tragic is the growing theory that Malcolm engineered this episode as a kind of digital time capsule, a message to the public he knew might only be heard posthumously. The fact that it was never released, despite being ready, raises questions about whether someone gained access to his files after the incident. Family insiders claim his personal laptop and audio recorder are both missing, unaccounted for, during the property handover in Costa Rica. Others point to strange login activity, from foreign IP addresses to his podcast dashboard the day after his demise. It all suggests that Not All Hood may have been more than a platform for culture. It may have become his lifeline, and possibly his undoing.
I hate to bring up the sad news, but news did break today of the untimely passing of malcolm-jamal.
I can't believe it.
So where does this all point? To something bigger than just a vacation tragedy, bigger than just a grieving widow or a rogue swimmer. This looks more and more like a calculated operation to silence a man who had the courage to call out the puppeteers. And that second man in the water, he may have been holding the scissors. There's still no word from the studio that hosted Not All Hood, no new episodes, no tribute, and the official cause of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing remains unchanged despite mounting inconsistencies and the global spotlight. But that's exactly the playbook, isn't it? Deny the storm, control the story, move on. Because if they keep the cameras off long enough, the audience forgets, or do they? Now it's your turn. Do you believe Malcolm-Jamal Warner was simply a victim of a rip current, or was that wave sent with purpose? What was on that hard drive? Why has no one seen the other man since? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't hold back. Someone out there is still listening. Until next time, stay sharp, stay loud, and never stop asking, who's really pulling the strings?